Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another special episode of Ask a Psychic. I'm here with my lovely friend, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, Christina. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm really energized after that call with Carly. Aren't you?
I know, yes, she's an incredible soul and is on at a really exciting point in her life and on an exciting journey. And I've known Carly. She was a customer of mine from Good Milk from the farmers market days. I've known her since her kids were just teeny tiny. And so I've gotten to, watch from a distance her journey, and her family's so incredible, and like it's all going to be good.
That's so special. Yeah, and I love what you said. We were kind of debriefing a little bit afterwards, but want to bring our audience in right away as we talk about it. It's like everyone's energy has such a different imprint, and we as psychics and mediums and oracles and all the things, we go into that energy, right? We set up this container where we embody and become the oneness of the greater consciousness of their body. And so it can leave us feeling like, okay, what are these emotions here? What do we have to work through? And it just really makes me think about emotions in general and the resistance to the wide array of emotions that many people assume fall in the I don't want them bucket, right?
Yeah.
And Carly mentioned panic attacks, and my energetic read on panic attacks is the resistance of emotion.
For sure.
Right?
Sure. Yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And so, okay, so like what do we do with that, and how do we get with emotions? And one of my favorite systems to use is actually therapeutic, and started in 1980 by Richard Schwartz. It's called internal family systems. Are you familiar with this?
I've heard of it many times, and it's been
Okay.
every time I hear it, I'm like, I need to look into that more, but
Well, let's talk about it, because
yeah.
I know you're going to intuitively understand this, but I like the framework because it comes up in every session. I can't tell you how many people of my clients say, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be anxious. And the reality is we don't want to dismiss or disregard those feelings. It actually creates resistance and the inability to be whole in ourselves. As a human, we are going to feel anger. We are going to feel fear. We are going to feel unsafe sometimes and insecure, and all of those things that people would say, well, I don't want them. Can I just come into a session and be healed from them and never feel them again? And it's actually my philosophy, and the way I approach it is the opposite. Actually, we're going to get to know them. We're going to create safety to be with them. And as a byproduct of that, your emotions do ease. They just become one with your wholeness, and then you feel more joy, and then you feel more happiness and excitement, and miracles happen, and everything flows. And so the internal family system looks at, there's parts of us. The anxiety comes in to keep us safe. The anger comes in to protect us. The control freak comes in to make sure, again, we're safe. And so naming these parts, what you're left with is a core essence of self. And this is what you and I describe as our soul, our highest self, our soul essence. So if you can't understand what parts are at play and what emotions are here, it gets harder to tune into the highest self. And then once you're tuned into the highest self, what happens is you become a channel of communication to divine source, right? And the heavens and God and spirit. And so that's why it's so important to say, well, what's going on here? What parts of you are actually talking? And how do we get back to the highest self that's embodied?
Totally.
That's
That makes
just
sense. And I love that. And I think I had an experience from a different direction where the universe gifted me the opportunity to feel wholeness for a very short amount of time, years ago. And I was like, oh, that's right. That is where we're meant to be. And I think when we are in wholeness, like the emotions don't happen in that way, because emotions are the reaction to a trigger, right? And so there's beauty in the emotions, because for me, anytime now that I feel an intense emotion or reaction, I'm like, oh, let me take a second and witness that and see what the root of that is. And that's how I have had an opportunity to work through a lot of my stuff, is just that by slowing down and witnessing and being like, oh, why is that triggering me? Why is that making me sad? And an acknowledgement of it, and then kind of letting it go. And
Mm,
like that is like the letting it go part is not even necessarily an active thing. I think it's like the
yes,
acknowledgement of it, then your
yes,
body just lets it go and you're
yes.
like, oh shit. Okay.
Because you're not, well, you just named it. Like, you're not coming in from a place of, I need so badly for this to go away. You are curious. You know, that's one of my favorite words is you're like, oh, something happened and I'm feeling this way. Let me be curious about it. Let me seek to understand it. Now, understanding is not control. You're not saying, I need to understand this so that I can control it so that it can go away. You're saying, I just want to learn and I'm open to the flow and I want to understand what this emotion has to like do for me in this moment. And that's it. I like to bring people through a visual of, let's get close to the anger, for example. That's the hardest one for women is like, how do we be angry? And what color is it? Does it have a temperature? What size is it? You know, what texture? All of these like things. And then, you know, kind of inviting it almost into our laps and be like, hi, like, what are you here for? What do you have to say? What messages? Like, is there something I need to know? And then you're in a conversation, but your highest self is the one talking to the anger. I love this quote from Tosha Silver, one of my the most amazing mentor, is she says, I am not anger. Anger is visiting.
Mm, all of it. All of it. Sadness. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that anger applies to everything. It's like Inside Out, you know, that cartoon.
Oh
Have you
my God,
watched
yes,
it with
it's
Bowie?
so
Bowie?
true.
I mean, I watched it as an adult. But yeah, I mean, they're all there. And then we're giggling, Brooke, like it's funny. This is crazy that
Right.
we have a whole system of emotions and parts trying to run the show. And it's like,
Right.
that's not
Right.
love.
Right. No, and I think, at the root of anger is sadness. Kind of at the root of them all is sadness. And I
Yeah.
think you can have fun with it too. I don't know if that's exactly what I want to say, but like
Mhm.
I released a lot. This is going to be a quick, funny story, but I released a lot of shit through Taylor Swift's Tortured Poets.
Okay.
Like, shocking to me, not a Swiftie, didn't really know her songs before that. Someone posted when the Tortured Poets album came, someone posted like part of a song, and I was like, it was the smallest, I think it's called like The Smallest Man That Ever Lived. And I was like, oh, let me listen to it. Bawling, bawling. I spent half a day in my bed. I was sick. I was having Lyme symptoms. Spent half a day in my bed listening to this album and just bawling.
Mm.
And like, it helped. It really like it cured a bunch of shit. Just like and music triggers like the different stories or the words
Mm.
obviously
Mhm.
trigger our own stories and conditioning and beliefs
Mhm.
and are a way to allow us to witness things. So like you can find some tools that are maybe more fun or somatic work, dancing, like, a lot of times intense dancing can bring stuff up. Like you don't have to sit down in meditation and try and bring stuff up. I think is my
Mhm.
point is like you can have a little more fun with it and like find your trigger and like go into it.
No, it's true. It's like put on a sad movie and force, the tears
Yes.
out kind of thing, like whatever it is. But I love art as
Totally.
an expression because it's such a unifier, music. I was actually talking to a girlfriend about this recently because I know I'm still working through that feeling and because I have learned, I think when you become so self-actualized, you start to be like, I don't need to pick this fight or I can
Mhm.
like, jump over the anger and just get to the place where I feel compassion and understanding and empathy and like I don't really need to like be angry. And my girlfriend was like, but there's so many things that happen in your life. I want to hold you in your anger. Like you should be mad at that situation or that purpose. And because you will eventually quickly get to it, I don't get to witness you in your anger. And it really got me thinking about this time I was with an ex, and my biological mother was being a terrible. And I was so mad. And him and I had been together for a long time, living together at this point. I was just letting it rip. And I was just talking about her, and I was so frustrated, and I was hurt. And he looks at me and he's like, I hope this isn't appropriate, but I'm so turned on right now. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean I'm losing my mind? He said, I've never seen you in this raw anger emotion place, like he's seen me frustrated at him, but this was a completely different level. And I wasn't like aware of how I might look or sound or feel, to him. And so he gave me the gift of it's actually magnetizing. You know, people will be attracted to me, not just obviously a
Yeah.
partner, but you know, people. And so, yeah, to like not only embody and understand these emotions, but to be fully in them, as long as you're being responsible, right? Like, I don't, like, we're not, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I wasn't being horrible on the phone with my mother saying, you know, terrible things. Um, it was in a private space where I could process it with someone.
Yes, I think that's the interesting and hard part about this spiritual journey, right? Is like we can quickly, I don't think that it's necessarily bypassing emotion, but we can also quickly go to, well, but I understand
Hmm.
from all these different
Hmm.
levels. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to get, we'll just use anger again. I'm not going to get angry because I understand that they're
Hmm.
hurt and this is the perspective they're coming from. And like, I think that's beautiful a lot of times, but it does cause this, and the body keeps the score. Like if you
Oh,
have
yeah.
anger, it needs to be let out, even and you can do it in a spiritual way. You can do it much quicker. You can do it without facing them and being rude and demeaning anyone, but I think witnessing and feeling those emotions, no matter how evolved you are, is important.
Yeah, and it's funny because even as we're pulling on the thread of like the nuance of it, like, well, how do I be angry but not push people away? Because I've seen that happen in my life too. Like, I'll get angry at a friend, you know, like in the moment, I'll be like, all right, I'll let it out. Well, in the friendship dynamics or like my family dynamics, I see them get angry at each other all the time. It's just like, okay, it's my turn, I'm gonna do it. But that reaction to my anger is almost like shocking, I can see to people because I think I have been so gentle and like, you know, but I think,
Extreme business.
do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and I can see in their face them being like, whoa, like I'm getting the anger right now, you know, what is this? And then they kind of like, in other words, and those are relationships, to be fair, that have faded away, right? Because they needed me
Yeah.
to be a certain way and show up a certain way and my loving self and my understanding self and being there to help them. And as soon as they were the one on the stage for, you know, doing something that we wanted, I wanted to work through with them, they couldn't. They couldn't do it. And so
Yeah.
I've had like that opposite thing of like feedback of being like, when I'm angry, it pushes people away. When the reality is sometimes being your true self will get you closer to the people who can be with your
Oh,
anger, you
yeah.
know?
Yes.
Hmm. Do you have
Yeah.
any like examples of like when you've been angry and people are like, absolutely not? Or I just want to know, trigger warning too, like it can erupt into violence for some people, and that's
Mhm.
scary. And where you grow up in your home environment, right? Like we're talking about regulated anger and emotion, is sort of, yeah, the.
Yes, non-reactive. I think in business, I've had to, control myself a lot and like always be the bigger person.
Mhm.
And I found that in
Mm.
some ways that's taught me a lot, right? But it's also brought up all kinds of trauma from my childhood and having to do that through childhood. And so
Mhm.
I had a situation a few years ago in my business with a group of investors where I took the higher road, I took the higher road, I took the higher road.
Mm.
And they kept threatening, they kept pushing, they kept threatening, and I literally felt like an animal in a like I had one of my first ever panic attacks. I had a
Mhm.
day, literally a day of depression, which sounds wild, but like literally a day where I was like depressed and had heart problem, like started to have heart problems, all these things, and I on a call just like let it out
Mm.
and left a threat that was basically like if you don't cut this right now, like I'm walking away. And they cut it. They cut the shit.
No, 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 and again, okay, so this is such an interesting example, Brooke, because I had something like this happen in my life too, where I was being understanding. Someone had really messed up that I was doing a favor for, and they wouldn't take accountability, and they were putting me through the ringer, and I didn't want to be litigious and to go to court. And finally, I was like, the right action is to go to court. Like, there are systems that are meant to protect us. And I was just afraid of saying the thing because I thought, oh, I don't want to give consequences. But the reality is that is what needed to happen.
Yeah.
And so, what you're talking about is like you had a need that did need to be met. And you put a boundary up of like, if this doesn't happen, this is going to happen. Boundary consequences. And I think what we're saying is like it's hard to again find that nuance of me being like, I felt like I was being mean or not good, and then I was like 103 emails later, I think it's time to have consequences for
Right.
your actions. You know what I
Where
mean?
there's a
Yeah,
balance, right? We're
and it
human.
works. And it worked, you know, I got there, the paycheck started coming. And so, um, yeah, it's hard to like know. And being a parent, I mean, we talk about Carly as a parent in this episode of like where to have boundaries and create consequences and be loving and be understanding, especially in this day and age, and especially you being as whole and you know in the woo world, so to speak, as you are. I think we, you know, maybe there's like an arc on the other side of that. And for Carly, it was sort of like we recommended for her to bring her children in closer, to allow their feelings to come to the table, to be a wise tribe and counsel, to figure out what their next steps are for the family. And that sometimes can invite big feelings, you know,
Yes.
and disagreements and arguments. And, you know, I'm sure Carly is listening, and I would say, like, double click on that, like, allow for the feelings, let it all out, heal it, you know, after. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious about your experience with like as a mother, like seeing, and your daughter is so sweet. I have the pleasure of knowing and loving her, and watching children express their emotions. They're not wrong. It's pretty
No.
cute to watch a little kid
They
have
don't
a
think they're wrong
tantrum
for
every
that.
once in a while.
That's for sure. It's a roller coaster, parenthood, and you pull on all the tools and sometimes the tools don't even work, and it's just
Yeah.
like you're just kind of along for the ride sometimes, but it's very eye-opening. And it allows you to see where you're attaching emotions to thing. It allows you to see and practice not being reactive, right? I think that's
Mhm.
the biggest thing in the emotional cycle and the expression of emotions. Like, as long as you're expressing your emotions in a non-reactive way, that is like grounded and productive, right? It's when we are reactive, and I can be reactive plenty, but it's when we are reactive that it's like that's where the trauma trigger is actually responding. So yeah, parenthood is
Wild, wild, wild.
such a gift in practicing
Well,
non-reactivity.
modeling anger and repair, I think, is, you know, I'm not a parent, obviously, but it's easier for me to experience from a distance. But I can speak of myself as a child and what I would have wanted. And to be able to see people angry and just be like, you know, dad's angry right now. Like he just needs to step away for a moment. You really, you know, like this made me angry. And then to come back and be like, it's okay. Like that was me angry. I feel better. This was my process. Can we talk about it? Like modeling emotions is so important to do for children,
Yeah.
right? And so how can we do that if we're not first doing it with ourselves? If we don't feel safe in a regulation of our own anger, my dad wasn't taught, then how can we expect him to regulate and understand that, right? And so this goes into like all the children of the world. Like it is so important to do this parts work and go to the spirituality and divinity of it all, so that when we regulate our nervous system, we're regulating the entire energetics of the children, of our partners, of our loved ones, of our family, of our friends. And then it's this ripple effect of like everyone can be more regulated together.
Yes.
And that's love, you know, that's coming from a place of wholeness. And that is just all I want for the world ever, you know?
I think this comes up with Carly. Something that is the foundation of that is safety. You
Yeah.
mentioned it, safety.
Yeah.
Like we cannot regulate ourselves or our emotions if we don't feel safe. And I think so many in our generation and the generations that have come before us have not felt safe. And I think we have an opportunity for the generations after us to raise them in a way where they feel they just have that foundation of safety. Then their nervous system is regulated, their emotions can be regulated more, they can be less reactive. Like it, to me, that root of safety, and we talk about it a bunch with Carly, like that
Yeah.
root of safety is so important. And I know that you see it in so many readings, and I see it in so many readings. It's like, hey, if you don't feel safe, like you are just making you're running all your decisions in your life through this crazy lens.
Yeah, that's so well said. And also to note, like we come from a place of privilege to say we can create our own emotional safety when the world around us is actually an unsafe place for a lot of humanity and a lot of human beings. And in Carly's example, she talks about how she called 911 and the system failed her, right? That was a system that should have shown up. She had faith. She did feel safe to call and that they would come, and they didn't. And so the point of me saying that is like we have to recognize that there is actually a dangers out there, that people have experienced real things and dangers will continue to come. So it's the nuance of saying how do I trust myself to be able to show up and feel when things are unsafe, when things do go
Yes.
wrong, when I am angry at the systems that are supposed to be set up to take care of us and wherever you live, where there is racism and homophobia and genocide and all of those things, like how do those people feel safe and regulate their emotions, and who is it up to go in and take care of that to make sure we're safe? So it's both. And I think, you know, you and I have the privilege of working with a lot of people that they're perceiving that they're unsafe
Yes.
from a place of old
Yes.
childhood wounds.
Yes.
But today they've created a place where they have privilege and actual safety. They have a roof over their head, they have food coming in, they have money coming in, they have a loving partner. And so that's, I think what you're saying is like, we in our work have the opportunity to be like, actually, you're the people to feel safe,
Yes.
to be able to regulate, to go out to the people who are vulnerable, who are elderly, who are, you know, like how to
Yes.
take care of them. So, yeah, sorry, that got me fired up. I'm like,
No, you nailed it.
wait.
You
Yeah.
nailed it. That's
Yeah.
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And yes, those of us who have the opportunity to feel safe, it is our responsibility
Mm-hmm.
to do that work.
Yes.
Do that work for our families, for the people that are around us, for
Yeah.
the wider collective. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm. I think
yeah.
that's a beautiful place to end on the collective. Sending
Yep.
you all so much love and safety. I'm excited for you to hear this episode. We get really deep with Carly. She shows up so vulnerably. We giggle, we cry per usual.
Yes, thank you, Carly. I feel like this one's going to be very relatable for so many of you, and thank you for showing up and for allowing us to read for you, Carly. Right, enjoy this one, guys. Thanks, Christina.
So I'm curious about your ancestry because that's coming up a little bit. It almost feels like there was a pattern, I want to say on your mother's side, where multi-generations were involved in helping raise the family. In other words, like your grandmother was around your mother was around you. And it could be back like, you know, 7 generations, but it feels like at some point that has been like really severed, where your role as a mother, as you asked, you know, kind of what you're looking at, has been cut off in a way where you're like, you don't want to be this independent, is what I'm hearing. Like, I don't want to have to hold all of this alone. And so, with that prompt of what's coming through, I'm curious in your own words what your intention is for today, what question you have, any background that you find is relevant for us to pull on this clear thread.
Mhm. Well, to your point about, you know, the mothers and the grandmothers and everybody sort of being present, my mom talks about how her grandmother was very present in her life and would take the kids on the weekends and they would go to the lake and they had, um, you know, all these wonderful experiences with their grandmother. And then my mom left her community, her village, when she met my dad. And so then it was pretty much that she was mothering on her own without her immediate family. And my dad's family was there, but you know, it's and my grandmother was wonderful, but she was very much tending to her daughters. So that's accurate. And yes, I mean, you know, sort of an aside, like I was recently telling my husband, like, I just feel like feminism is broken. Like we really said, like, okay, you know, we want these jobs and we want opportunities, we want to be paid equally, but the men weren't saying, I can't wait to do laundry and I can't wait to make dinner and I can't wait to like bathe the kids, you know? And so with the loss of the support from, you know, family, I do feel like it's just a lot. It feels like it's a lot.
Yeah, I feel this general sense from your soul of like, and it feels like this is kind of like a recent thought that's coming through for you of like, how did we end up here? Like looking around, just general, not like in
Yeah.
a physical location, but how did we end up
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is something living in your body. It almost feels like your sternum, where things like come in really intensely. I don't know if you're feeling that, Brooke, or if
here?
you've had any sort of discomfort there in the past. It feels more muscular and bone than it does say like esophagus. And there is some inherited resentment towards men
Mm.
that there's being held on to. And the fact of the matter is, you've healed so much that you do look at your partnership as an equal partnership in a sense. Like, in other words, when you care for his feelings, that feels good to you to do. Whereas, a couple generations back, and this goes honestly very far, Carly, I could look at a lot in your ancestry, but it's been like the man decides and then you go and then you do the thing. And so you have balanced it out quite a bit, and it's helping your children, be in the world of equality, which is important to you. But it's still there and it's still living in you where you're like, I actually don't want to do anything anybody tells me to do. And even though I'm loving and caring,
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, you don't want to have to be that. Does that
Mm-hmm.
feel true?
Yeah. Yeah, that resonates for sure.
Yeah, I feel like there's this, yeah, kind of similar to what you're describing, Christina, this quiet rebellion that's happening inside of you. That's again like, how do we end up here? And like, no, wait a minute, I have different value to add to this system, to this relationship. And you had mentioned, I know we didn't get into your story yet, but you had mentioned that you guys had made a move from LA to Nashville recently. And it feels like in that move, almost in being in a different space, like that awakened something in you. And it awakened like one more of your natural existence, your natural perspective. But it allowed like this feeling of this combination of like excitement, safety, this perspective of like, oh, I feel like things can be different. It brought in this different energy. And it feels like, and we know there's potential for that to be pulled away from you. And that potential of it being pulled away is almost setting you back like three, like you took 2 steps ahead, but now it's setting you back 3 steps and bringing up all of these feelings of like I said, like the lower, Christina said, and I don't think it was on the recording, but like my lower abdomen, like I guess probably like the solar plexus down, like feels very tight, like unsafe, like almost like you're bracing for something. And it feels like, and you feel like you are bracing and you have to brace because you don't have control, because you're just being pushed in whatever direction someone else's will wants. How does that feel?
That feels accurate. I think when in the email, I had said this idea that I'm going to be pulled back to LA from this place sent me into like panic attack. And I used to have panic attacks in my 20s, and they hadn't really reared their head, not like this. Like I would have one every now and again, but this was like many in a day and debilitating. Like I couldn't drive, I'd have to pull over. And so I just recently did a hypnotherapy session to try and like overcome it. And the exact thing that came back was my childhood home was not functional. It was very dysfunctional. And what my association was, me being pulled out of this place was like I was being chucked back into my childhood home. And so I was having a very visceral, big reaction to it.
Yeah, can you tell just for our listeners like a little bit of the story of what's going on right now and why you're here with us?
Yes. So we moved from Los Angeles to Nashville right after the fires. I had found LA to not be very charming for a while, mostly from like a safety perspective for my kids, how I wanted to raise my kids, the values and the ideas that I had about raising my kids. We had some episodes where, we live in a nice neighborhood, but people were trying to break into our home. We would call the police. They just don't come. I had a heart surgery in December of last year, had a complication. My husband called 911. They put us on hold for over 3 minutes. And nobody ever even came to the phone. So he ended up putting me in the car and driving me to the hospital. So there's all of this, like this loss of a sense of safety, loss of a sense of being cared for by my village, by the people that, when you call 911, they're supposed to come. So that was really heavy on me. In addition to the wanting my kids to be safe. And then the fires hit in January. My middle kid has really reactive asthma and had been hospitalized twice. My oldest daughter does music stuff. So we had been to Nashville a couple times, and every time we've been to this area, it felt good. It just felt good. And she had to be here again to record some things. So we were going to be out here for like 4 weeks of the last 2 months of school. So I was like, what if we do an adventure? We rent out our house to a family from the Palisades who lost theirs, and we just all go to Nashville and see how it goes. So we came, and the kids thought it was refreshing and different. And so they decided that they wanted to do another school year. So we are here for another school year. But my husband is from England, and he doesn't love it here. He says it rains too much, and he's landlocked, and he likes to see the water and all the things. So he really wants to go back. His business is in LA. And so this idea that at the end of this school year, we have to go back, like it like makes my heart race now. Like thinking about it, you know.
Your thank you for sharing that story. Your soul is like so done with the not feeling safe.
Yeah.
You are so ready to put that story to bed, to be done with it, to step into whatever power, whatever pieces of life you need to feel safe. Like you're done. You're done. And that's why I think these instant panic attacks are coming, because it's like, oh no, we're not going to give it time to like, go through the process of like the kind of not feeling safe, then really not feeling safe. Like, no, we got to send the message. This is not something that's going to be tolerated anymore. So, all in divine timing, I think you're coming to us at the perfect time. But I feel like, and Christina, I'm excited to hear what you are seeing this. I feel like you're kind of just like done. Like you're closing the door on a chapter where you haven't felt safe in general. Like I know more things have come up recently, but this foundation of not feeling safe has run too many things in your life, is a perspective that you've been filtering everything through, whether you know it or not. And your soul is like, no, we're done. And we're ready to step into our power as the mother, as the sensitive one, as the one who leads with intuition and trusts her intuition and like gets to make decisions for this family from that perspective. And that's not a like harsh place. That's like a very nurturing, beautiful place that your soul is like, this is what I'm meant for. Like you have so much like mother essence to you. Like there's just so much mothering and mother energy and like moon energy to you, and you're so wise and you're so connected to your intuition, and you know what's right for you and you know what's right for your family, but that has been like stifled. And again, I think a big part of the reason is because everything has run in your life up to this point has run through that window, that perspective of I'm not safe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what can we do? What tools can we give you? What is your soul like? Okay, I know that I would love to just be done. There's like a healthy amount of skepticism of like, I've tried, I'm open, and you are, and that's great. That sternum feeling makes sense. That I was like the muscle, it's something under there, and it's like literally your heart was breaking in some ways. And we don't have to go deeper than that. I just want to acknowledge your body gave that information for a reason. I don't see you going back to LA, but I also don't see you staying in Nashville.
Agreed.
There is something in your family system that hasn't been tapped in as a superpower of the energy of you all. It's sort of like the children are looking to you for a leader. You're looking to your husband to love him and take care of his needs. You're also honoring like your own body's reaction to certain decisions or making too many moves. You all, as an energy and entity of a family, actually feel like you come together almost like a council, a wise council of old souls. And there needs to be more play and creativity of like, let's blow the whole roof wide open on figuring out what's next. Everyone put in their ideas. Anything is possible. Let's draw it out. Let's sing it out. Let's write it out. Let's dance it out. Let's shake the sillies out and just say what everyone wants and like what can we build, and anything is possible. And it's just a thought experiment. It's a think tank that your family hasn't really acknowledged as a superpower of a family. You're actually all very flexible, but you want all of your needs met. And the fact of the matter is all of your needs can get met in one way. You just haven't come to that table as a wise counsel yet. And the next thing I'll just say, Brooke, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, but I'm being told to ask about dancing. Has dancing been a part of your life in the past? Um, Talk to me about why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it hasn't, but I taught this fitness class where there was like a lot of free movement, and
Yes.
it was like, and I do miss that piece of it, but there's like I don't have a community here. I don't have anybody to come to my class,
Yeah, you're
you
just meant
know?
to be dancing. You're meant to go to the classes, girl. Your body really needs to dance. And that's what I was hearing, like not
Okay.
structure, free flowing. Like I know there's
Yeah.
ecstatic dance classes in Nashville. I spent some time there. There's a huge community, and I'm happy to introduce you of like,
Okay.
yeah, like wellness, holistic, like it's huge there. And so your body is aching to like just
Yeah.
move, dance is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. So that's a tool to bring with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and the words compassion and compromise came up as Christina was talking all of that. She's absolutely dead on with like this. We need to get looser about and think about really what are the possibilities. It's not so black and white. And you guys are a team, right? And there in those conversations there needs to be compassion for everyone's needs and feelings, and perspectives, and compromise. And also, you are the CEO. You are the CEO of your family. And I don't mean that in a business way. Like mom CEOs, I like to say chief executive oracle. Like
Mhm.
you, at the end of the day, need to be able to trust your gut, pull on your intuition to know, like you hear everyone out, you are kind of like watching it all happen and you pull it together to make the plan. But you need to have the right foundation for yourself first, right? Again, you can't be the oracle for the family if you're also still seeing all of those options through this lens of not feeling safe. So I think priority number one is how do we get you to feel safe in general? And like that, that's going to be more than a couple day process. It's like
Mhm.
years of deconditioning that needs to happen. And I know you've probably done a lot of that work. And I think Christina's dead on. Like you moving and doing it not in a way where you're teaching others, but focusing on yourself. I think you're going to get a lot of downloads, a lot of releases. Like your body is so intelligent and you're so connected to it that you just give it the opportunity and it will tell you what to do. But getting you to a place where your foundation is good, and luckily we have months, right? Like it's the start of the school year, we're not
Mhm.
worried until the end of the school year. So I think like if you can take this, we'll call it, the next 3 months to really just focus and work on yourself and know that when you're operating from your best self with the most solid foundation, like the rest of it's going to get a lot easier.
Your nervous system wants to hear that no surprises are going to happen, that when you do choose to move, it will be a fully embodied choice and it will feel easy and you will not have the experience of the panic attacks. So just know that that's not how that's going to go for you. You're all going to be fully on board and very excited. You're going to find the perfect place. You're going to have, I feel like a cool breeze is there. I do feel the water is nearby.
Yeah.
And it's important for you too.
I feel water.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay.
And it feels like your husband's making this decision not from his best and highest place either, right?
Yeah.
So, I think and I think maybe that compassion and compromise maybe starts between the two of you, like giving him some compassion and hearing him out and like really again using your intuition to not just hear the words, but like what is the root of I see him as he's kind of like this big rock sticking out of the water. And you're the water and like you can come in and beat him down over years and years, right? Or
Yeah.
you can kind of come in, gently surround him and rise up and like meet him where he's at and help him through his stuff. Not that you have to solve it, but I think to just be able to witness and for you to understand where he's actually coming from versus the words coming out of his mouth would be really helpful too. Because it feels like there's a lot of emotion tied into it too. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily fully rational.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That steadiness and stoicism can be, it's like we're shifting that perspective of like what's stuck and too hard and what is like a natural calm. And there's an oscillation there. Um, the last thing I just want to ask about that's coming through, does like something about your hair or your daughter or son's hair, there's something about hair that feels like your ends, like spirit guides are coming in and wanting to like play with it or help it grow or change the color or like tell me, yeah, does that mean anything to you?
I mean,
Comes,
well, it's just funny that you said, I think this hair that I have right now, I've never had in my life. Like,
yeah,
it's funny. It's just like it's gone really wavy and
yeah,
I stopped coloring it. And so it's,
yeah.
my gray is really coming in and my kids, they don't want to see me as old, and when they see my gray hair, they're like, "Oh, you're old." And like, whatever that means for them, whether they like don't want to acknowledge that like
Yeah.
mortality was at some point comes and gray hair means that you're closer. I don't know. But yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
your
maybe
spirit team is
that's it.
celebrating. They're like, we're loving it. Like, ask her about her hair. It's important. Like, go for it. So that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. So we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you so much. What is something like, what do you think you'll take away from this session? What has deeply resonated with you?
Well, I think like the comfort of knowing that like maybe there's sort of this, it feels like we're not on solid footing here in Nashville because it isn't necessarily the place where we're going to end up,
Mhm.
beyond the end of this school year. I love that like we're a wise council and that we need to just sort of do our like throw the ideas in the hat and like see what comes out and talk it through. Um, I remember a long time ago at a soccer game, one of my kids, a mom on the team would come up and she's like, "You guys are like such a wolf pack. Like you
Mhm.
just all kind of feed off of each other and you help each other." And it's not perfect by any stretch. Don't get me wrong, but we are that, and I think it makes me feel more excited about what's to come versus fearful.
Yeah.
Yay! It's such a great
Yeah.
note to end on, excitement
Yeah.
and love. And as a fun question on that fun and
Mhm.
excitement, what is a fun psychic party trick that you have and that you use?
Um, I mean, I will have dreams that are like of a different tone, like a different color, a different energy.
Mm,
And I almost never remember my dreams, but when I remember something, I know that it means something and I have to act on it. And every single time it's been wildly accurate, like
mm.
funny. So,
Yeah.
Oh, we
yeah.
love it.
That's
Dreams.
that's such a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carly.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for
So
having me. I really
appreciate
love that.
you. Yes, I know we're so excited for you and not worried at all. And your soul is a beautiful place to hang out with. So thank you for
Thank
allowing
you.
that.